and welcome to our second segment on the Multi-Generation Dynasty Trust. I'm your host, Attorney Michael Potter, and in this segment we'll be looking at how the Dynasty Trust operates in conjunction with other types of legal entities, how it protects assets from creditors, lawsuits, divorce, and estate taxes, and how it can provide incentives for multiple generation of your family to be better human beings and make the world a better place. Sounds pretty good, so let's get started. Now, as you'll recall from last time, we're looking at the multi-generation dynasty trust within the context of integrated planning. That is, we integrate it with the use of corporations, limited liability companies, limited partnerships, and various kinds of financial planning tools that can coalesce and work together to achieve an optimum result. Now, traditional planning is quite different. Traditional planning often conveys ownership down to the next generation, or it fails to properly take into account the rules of attribution that occur within a civil lawsuit, so that if a plaintiff can claim that the entity is really you under the rules of attribution, then a court can pierce that entity under a claim of fraudulent transfer, or maybe through a divorce or some other type of litigation where they want to get at the assets. Here, we're going to change the paradigm. Now, in order to put the assets beyond the reach of predators, then we need to do some planning that changes the rules of attribution as they apply to the assets held inside of the Dynasty Trust. Now, that can be accomplished in a variety of ways, but the most important of which is to separate ownership from control, and to have assets held in such a fashion that they cannot be reached by a predatory creditor, but at the same time, they can be managed and controlled under a structure that is favorable to the trust. Now, waiting until there's already a problem is waiting too long. It's like waiting until your house is on fire in order to call the insurance agents and get better coverage. Asset protection is best put in place before it's needed while your legal seas are still calm. Now, as you might imagine, it's very important to make transfers in this structure so that timing is crucial. In other words, we'd want to move the ownership of assets that are currently attributable to you into the structure in such a fashion that it's not you for purposes of lawsuits, divorce, or estate taxes. Secondly, we'd want to do it in such a structure so that the ownership would not be attributable to your children either. We would have ownership attributed to the structure and beneficial use and enjoyment held by the family. So if businesses, management companies, and wholesale real estate can be held by, say, an S corporation, and rental properties and businesses and other types of investments held by either limited partnerships or limited liability companies, then those assets can be structured in such a fashion that the companies themselves can be held by a limited partnership as a viable intermediary, or even directly by the trust in such a fashion that it's not you under the rules of attribution. Now, if you've attended one of my workshops, you probably remember my analogy of the layers on the onion, that when you peel back one layer, there's another one. You peel back another layer, and there's another one, and another, and another. But there's something very interesting that happens with an onion when you start peeling back the layers. And that is a small chemical reaction begins to take place. And pretty soon the person peeling back the onion is shedding tears, and they got it all over their hands and they want to get rid of it. And that's what we want a prospective creditor to feel like when they try to peel back the onion of your structure. We want that outer layer to be so good, so tough, that they have a hard time peeling back that one and then trying to go for the next one and the next one. By using a legacy structure that has a dynasty trust as its centerpiece and then utilizes corporations and limited liability companies and the limited liability limited partnership, or triple LP, which I cover in a separate video, then your prospective predator is really going to have a tough time of it, and that's what you want. So typically, I'm going to have the Dynasty Trust own about 80% of the stock of any corporation or LLC. And I'm going to have your Revocable Living Trust own about 20%. Why is that? Because I want to get as much of it as I can outside of your taxable estate and beyond the reach of predatory creditors. That's why. Now, besides owning corporations and LLCs and limited partnerships, the Dynasty Trust can also own other types of financial tools, such as life insurance policy. A single person could have a large life insurance policy owned by the Dynasty Trust and payable to the Dynasty Trust, so that with both ownership and beneficiary status, the Dynasty Trust would receive that money both income tax-free and estate tax-free. And in the case of a married couple, you might consider using second-to-die life insurance, also known as survivorship life insurance. Owning life insurance on the lives of the founders and having it payable to the Dynasty Trust would be a very tax-effective way to have life insurance inside of the Dynasty Trust. Moreover, you could have policies of life insurance on the second generation also payable to the Dynasty Trust, and the third generation and the fourth generation, and so forth. It would look like this. You know, it may very well surprise you that you don't have to be rich to establish a multi-generation dynasty trust. It's actually very affordable. And once it's set up, the trust can be easily funded with just $100. That gives it life. And once your dynasty trust is alive, then you can begin transferring into it the stock of corporations, membership interests of LLCs, limited partnership interests, and other types of holdings such as insurance policies, etc. It's a wonderful way to plan. And this is the second of our series about the Dynasty Trust. I'm attorney Michael Potter, and I look forward to hearing from you.